Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show, How We Grow. This is your essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business. With advice and insights from the best in the biz, I'm your host, Lynell Gordon. On today's episode of Vacation Rental Show, How We Grow, we are delighted to welcome Bethany Smith. Bethany is the Chief Administrative Officer at Hobbspitality, who has about 200 high-end homes. And she brings a really unique aspect to an experience to today's episode. And I want her to tell us a little bit about it. Welcome, Bethany. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Bethany, you're a bit unusual. You're a bit unique. You're a unique rabbit in this industry. You have been in this industry since you were literally a toddler.
That's right.
You've been in business here all your life, and you've done all different aspects of the business. But I have seen such amazing things from you in the administrative part of the business, and they put you in the right seat on the bus, obviously. So tell me a little bit about what you do.
So like you said, am the chief administrative officer, and in our family business model, that essentially means that I do all things people and culture. So I manage our human resources and I manage all of our managers.
So you manage the managers, which is a big deal. That's a
It
huge
is.
deal. I just want to point something out that I think Hobbs does better than anyone else I've ever seen in the industry. I want you to can you show everybody your shirt? If you're not looking, I'm going to tell you what you see. It is a cute little shirt. It's a white. It's a shirt like you'd find on any high-end rack of a store. It has eyelet sleeves, but she's got everything you have is logoed. It's a square neck. It's very beautiful. And every time I see somebody from your team, you've got something new on with a logo. Tell me about that branding. How do you guys decide what you can brand and what you can't brand? Or can you brand anything?
Yeah, absolutely. We call it our high season uniform. And so we ask our team to wear black and white Monday through Friday. And on Saturdays, we wear what we call Hobbs Realty Blue. And so our high season is really Memorial Day through Labor Day. And so they're allowed to go shopping, buy, whatever they want to wear. And we of course reimburse them for that. And then we send it out to be embroidered. So everyone has their unique style, but it still has our logo on it. It just helps us all feel, the sense of uniform in the team. And when anyone comes in our office, they know exactly who they're looking for, who they need to speak to, because we all have this top on.
That's really cool. I love
Yeah.
the branding. Let's talk about operations. One of the things that you have done and you did for many years, when did you start doing the housekeeping? When did you start managing that department?
I started managing housekeeping right in the middle of July of 2017.
Why did you have to start in July?
I was a teacher at the time, and I was working just really on Saturdays as an inspector. And we happened to lose our housekeeping manager 4th of July week, our busiest week of the year. And so, we're a family business. So my mom said, I need you to come to work and I need you to be our housekeeping manager.
And so it was trial by fire.
Yes. And I'm pretty sure went on vacation the next week and said, "You can do it." And I did it.
Well, okay. So you've managed that for many years before you turned it over to someone else. Obviously, you can't do that and manage all the managers, but you manage the person that manages that now, right?
Yes, and she started in February of this year, and so I'm still working really closely in housekeeping.
But she's had a whole season in it. How did that go, turning that over?
It was a little hard for me to turn it over just because I do truly love it, and I've always looked at housekeeping kind of as that's my area of expertise, and so it was hard to let it go, but it's been really exciting to learn more about the other operations in our company, learn more about maintenance and, reservations and all of that, so I love to learn and grow, and you can't do that unless you let go of things so that you can learn more.
That's true. You can only do so much. In the property management business, my favorite department is housekeeping too. I have a real heart for it because it's the first thing people see when they come in, and it makes such a difference in the guest experience. Tell me, what advice would you give to people who are looking to do better in their housekeeping department?
Sure. So my top piece of advice for housekeeping members is that it's all about the connection with your housekeepers and your inspectors, the people that work for you in the field. They are the face of your company, and they need to know that how important their role is and that they're respected in that role. And so we always try to train them on our brand and our core values so that they can embody that when they go out into the field and interact with the guests and homeowners. It's not just about cleaning. Of course, you have to have really high cleaning standards and things in place to make sure that you meet the mark with cleaning and that you deliver the service that you are promising, but they're the ones doing it. So they have to know what your core values are. They have to know your brand and they have to buy into it. And so we always refer to our housekeepers as professional housekeepers. And, we just make sure that every time they walk in our doors, I've trained our housekeeping team, you stop what you're doing, you put your whatever you have, you put it down, and you stand up and you greet them and you talk to them and you learn about them and you build relationships with them.
Wow, that's powerful. Building relationships with your guests is very powerful, even on that level. Okay. So that's really unique. Tell me about your season this season. Now that the season is over, we're looking for 2025 now because it's almost Labor Day, so we're almost there. So tell me, what are you going to be doing in this particular operations department to make sure that you did great this year, whatever you did well, and then look and see what you're going to have to do better in 2025. How do you evaluate that? How do you guys go about that?
It's so important to reflect on the summer while you're still in the summer. And so we always try to keep a running list throughout the summer of what is breaking down, what is not working, what do we need to address later, because you don't really have time to make a lot of changes in the middle of the summer, right? And so we always try to keep that running list of things that we're going to revisit in the fall as soon as we have a little downtime, because you'll forget. You may in when September and October roll around, you might not remember what went wrong in June. And so just keeping track of that so that you can revisit it. And then we have to you want to try to not make too many changes every single year. So you need to give yourself a chance. Like when you implement something new, you want to give yourself a little time to make sure that it's working. And so changing everything year to year can definitely not give you the results that you're looking for. And so for 24, we made some big changes in that season. We started including guest amenity kits from one of our partners, Sojo, and that was our biggest change. And so we don't want to change that up again for 2025, right? We've learned from it, and now we want to give it time to really perfect that service.
You implement, whatever you think they can handle, and then you wait and you evaluate it. I found that I was just about to ask you about technology, but I found when you implement technology in housekeeping, it's one of the hardest areas to implement technology. And it's not so much that they're resistant to change, it's that housekeeping directors are responsible for that very first guest interaction if they haven't been greeted already. But normally nowadays they go to the home. And so they take their responsibility so seriously that it's not that they're resistant to change, guys, when you go into this department to make changes, is that they feel so much responsibility and they have so much on them for that, that they take it extraordinarily seriously. So overloading them is not a good idea.
No, I agree with that. And we do actually, I know that, like you mentioned, a lot of companies have the technology to where their housekeepers can go straight to a rental property. We have that capability, but we have chosen to require our housekeepers to stop in to our housekeeping facility every Saturday morning before they go out to clean the property so that we can have that touch point with them. We want to have a conversation with them and make sure they have everything they need for the day, that they're set up for success, and that they know that we're there to support them with whatever they come across when they get into those properties. And so we have found that that's just something that we can't lose that touch point with our housekeepers. And so while they can communicate with us through different software tools, we still want that face-to-face greeting every Saturday morning.
Let me ask you this. How you've done this for 7 years. Tell me how you feel the most successful way to handle callbacks are.
Oh, that's a great question. I used to be so afraid of callbacks and it made me so uncomfortable. But it's just part of the job. And so the way that we do it is our inspectors, they just take a notepad and they write down all the issues that they find in the property. And they go ahead and they text us a photo of those notes and we determine, is this really a callback? So we ask our inspectors if it's something they can clean in 15 minutes or less, they correct it and they move on to their next house. So we determine if it's truly a callback. And when it is, we tell the housekeeper up front, transparent, these are the notes. Are you able to go back and and make these corrections? And they'll either say yes or no. And the reason that it's so seamless now is because we tell them up front what our policy is for callbacks and how we handle it, and so they know how to expect it. They know what to expect, and they usually are very willing to go right back and correct those issues, and so we usually don't have a problem with it, and they're usually apologetic, and it's hard to hear negative feedback about work that you've done, and so we always keep that in mind. We never blame them or speak to them in a negative way or say like, "This is horrible." We just say, "We had some issues. Are you able to fix it?" And keeping it positive and upbeat. And that sets the tone for the housekeeper, and they're able to accept it a little better.
What about pay? Do you dock pay when they do that?
We do. If they are not able to return, we pay by a piece rate system. A lot of people in the industry do that. And so they know upfront this house, let's say it pays $200 to clean this house. So they know that up front. And so if they say, well, we can't come back to do these callback notes, then we let them know right away, these notes are worth this much. And if you can't come back, we'll have to deduct this much from the $200 pay. And so there's no confusion later.
It's all
And
up
that,
front.
yeah, it's all up front. And that's what I was scared of in the beginning. When I first started out, those are difficult conversations to have with people, and so I would say, don't be afraid to have those conversations, but just make sure that you're doing it in a respectful way and it should be fine.
That's the way I paid my way through college second time, was
Oh,
weekends,
oh,
cleaning
really?
houses. Oh, yes.
It's hard work. I did clean houses when I was a teenager. My dad would drop me off at a beach house and with an adult, of course, supervising, and I learned to clean beach houses. And then I started inspecting before I became the housekeeping manager, so
I loved it. It was the most it was the most rewarding one of the most rewarding jobs I ever had because you get immediate gratification that you have a
mhm.
clean house.
Exactly, and you have the best view of anyone on the island, cleaning an oceanfront beach house
That's
is
true.
relaxing.
I agree with you 100%. Let's talk about technology. How has the integration of technology influenced the way that you're managing your housekeeping in HR? And here's the reason I ask, because I know something unique about your team, your management team, and that is you have a lot of technology that you use, but then you say, "Okay, well, this part I will use because it doesn't or this part I won't use because it doesn't fit this, or it fits this part." You really do a great job of taking it apart and making it fit you. How do you do that?
Well, so in housekeeping, we when I came in, there was just one way to do it, and my mom told me, she said, "This is what we use. We use LSI tools, we use Schedule Pro," and she trained me over the phone on her way to the mountains that first week she was leaving, you know, and it was so user friendly that I was able to learn it over the phone, and it has worked so well that there was never any need to change it. And so while we did change PMS companies, and now the company that we're with, Streamline, they have the capability, of course, to do those tools, but we don't wanna you don't if something's not messed up, why change?
I think that you guys have a setup that lends itself towards success because, correct me if I'm wrong, you hire all your housekeepers in-house. You hire them yourselves, right? Or do you use a service that hires them?
We do not use a service. We use independent vendors, contract cleaners. We don't subcontract out with companies. So we're looking at 100 to 150 independent contractors that come to work every Saturday. They're not our employees, they're vendors.
This episode of How We Grow is brought to you by Blue Tent. Blue Tent is proud to offer digital marketing solutions for vacation rental professionals. Expand your visibility to new travelers and book more guests with the team at Blue Tent, featuring direct booking sites, email marketing, digital marketing, channel management, and more. Discover what Blue Tent can do for your short-term rentals at bluetent.com.
Do you have the same people return for the summertime jobs? Do you use them during the winter?
So we have a good amount of housekeepers that return, and we have some who, have worked for us since I was a child. Are still cleaning houses with us. But sometimes you get someone who only works for a season just based on, what's going on in their life at that time. So we do have to recruit and train and rehire every year.
So the training, how does that happen? What do you guys do
Well,
for that?
right, because they're independent contractors. I don't actually call it training. I call it orientation. And we just let them know right away that we have kind of like a mandatory orientation, a touch point. We get them all together for one day before the season starts, and we go over all of our core values, our expectations. We give them our standard property appearance guidelines, and we let them know, of course, that you know they are the housekeeping professional. They're able to clean however they see fit. But these are our expectations. These are our standards for cleaning, and they'll be inspected. And we make it a really fun time. It lasts a couple hours. There's a lot of information to go over, but
Mhm.
we stop every so often, and well, they enter into a raffle when they get there. And so we stop every so often and pull tickets, and we give out prizes throughout. And we always feed them and just make it a really fun time to get them excited about coming to work for Hobbs Realty. And we always have a really great turnout and feedback from it. And it's just, if they're not able to attend, we don't schedule them as a housekeeper until after we schedule our next orientation. So we do a couple throughout the spring.
Oh, wow. So what is one key piece of advice that you would offer other property managers who are property management professionals looking to improve their housekeeping?
I would say invest in your team. Invest in your in-office team and your field team of housekeepers. Your operations manager of housekeeping, that's the person who's really in the trenches making everything happen behind the scenes. You need to make sure they have the right resources and that they know that they have your support as the property manager, that you're on their team and that you're going to go to bat for them when there are issues in housekeeping. And then making sure that your housekeepers that they have the right resources, that they have the right information, that they know your expectations, and that they're valued and respected in that role. Because you cannot function without a solid housekeeping team, right? You cannot run your business if housekeepers are not going to show up to clean the properties. And so to me, it's just that relationship with housekeepers is the most important piece. And it's in our area what keeps them coming back. There's several companies in our area, right here on this island, that you could choose to clean for. And so we get feedback a lot of the time saying, well, we come back because of the atmosphere, because of the environment, because you're so friendly and easy to work with. And so that's really important to me. And it was really, I think why it's so important to me is because it was important to my parents. It's what I saw growing up. And so I had, it was really important to me to make sure that when I trained people in housekeeping, that's what I passed on to them.
So let's talk just a minute about family owned business. What advice would you give to property managers who want to hire their kids, their teenage kids, their kids that are in school, whatever? What advice would you give to them?
I would say to do it. That it's a wonderful opportunity, and you know for me, I'm surrounded by my best friends who also happen to be my family while I'm at work all day, and we're we work 40 plus hours a week. And so I think that training your children is really the one of some of the easiest people to train because they're your kids. You can kind of say and do whatever you want to say and do, but they really have learned by example. And so they're also going to feel a sense of loyalty and dedication to the company because they're your family, right? But we also strive to make sure that our team feels that sense of belonging when they come to work every day. We want to make sure that our rental guests feel it in the services that we provide. And just like in a healthy family unit, we want to make sure that we build a culture of honesty, trust, and also set boundaries in our office. And we do that through transparency.
And how do you handle conflict when it's in the family? I mean, you have to go to work. These are the people you love. These are the people you how do you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I think my family does a pretty good job of separating work and family if there's ever an issue in the family. But we do have to have difficult conversations, of course, just like any company would. And so my parents have raised me to see the whole person. And so I always take that into consideration, whatever external factors when I'm making a decision. Yes, we're running a business, but people and relationships are really what make that business thrive. So I always try to treat those relationships with care, like just like I would with my family. And I always approach a difficult conversation with a coworker or a homeowner or a rental guest, just really trying to see it through their perspective.
Can you share an experience or a success story from your time that highlights the impact, like, of exceptional customer service? And you're like, wow, that was just the best ever. Made the customer because it made the guest feel so happy. Because we always feel good when we make our guest happy. It gives us the warm and fuzzies when they're happy. I remember a story last year from someone about a family who came to the beach every single year, and it was the grandfather, and then he brought the grandchildren, eventually, and then the grandfather passed away, and they came and they did the memorial service at that same house. So those kinds of things always I was really that really touched me to hear that story from one of my guests last year. What kind of
It
stories do you have for customer service there?
It is really touching to get to know the vacation rental guests and the reason that they're coming on vacation. I think a lot of times we think they're just coming to go to the beach, right? To take a week off of work and go to the beach, but we found that a lot of the time they're coming for a specific reason. And so that's why we try so hard to make sure that everything is as perfect as it can be for their arrival because they're not always coming for the best circumstances. Like you mentioned, a family coming back for the first year after their grandpa had passed and he had always been on that vacation. Or, we deal with people that let us know that they're terminally ill and this may be their last vacation with their family. We actually did have that happen this summer and, it just broke all of our hearts, but we actually arranged for a local chef to come to the vacation rental property and cook their family a meal. So we were so happy to be able to provide that for them to have that lifelong memory.
What's your favorite guest or owner story?
Well, I can tell you this. So this is taking it way a little bit back to when I was a child, but I will always remember our early homeowners because things were a lot different then. And I think it's not necessarily better or worse, but it was just a lot different, right? And so what I remember growing up is that my parents had personal relationships with many of their homeowners. And I and my siblings and I actually got to know them and we would look forward to them coming to the beach and we would go to their real properties and they would cook for us and they would come to our house and visit us and they would bring us gifts and it was like extended family at that point. And some of those homeowners are still living and still in our program, and some of them have passed their rental properties down to their children. Some of them have sold, but yeah, some of these properties have been in our program since the 80s so
Wow.
that was really impactful and just something that um, I have really enjoyed seeing, develop over all these years.
That's a long time homeowner.
Very. Yeah. Some of them have been in the program longer than I've been alive.
Yeah. Is there any other advice that you'd like to give property managers for either HR or housekeeping?
So, one of the best things that Rochelle, and I have done in the last 2 years is to really make sure that we know our why. Why are we doing the things that we do this way? And so we developed a set of core values, and we didn't have that before. That's newer to our company within the last couple of years. And so having a set of core values that you integrate into all aspects of your company culture so that it becomes second nature to everyone on your team and it begins to, spill out of them in all of their interactions. And what I started doing in 2024 is actually using those core values as performance indicators with our
Oh, I
team.
love it.
Yeah, and so of course metrics like inbound calls answered, yeah, it's really important to know. But in my experience, the attitude and the values that your team embraces is going to have a larger impact on your guest and homeowner satisfaction, more so than, maybe abandonment rate numbers. So we introduced our core values in 2023 and we made sure that our team was very well aware of them. We had conversation after conversation about those. And then in 2024, we said, this is what we're going to hold you to. This is what we hold our company. This is the standard for our company culture. And it makes so many conversations in human resources easier because you can just say, this behavior or this decision doesn't align with our company culture and our core values, or we can say that decision does embody our core values and we appreciate that. And so it really, I think, has changed the way that I've been able to manage human resources.
It gives you measuring sticks that you can hold people accountable to for their
Exactly.
yeah. So I agree. I think it's really important that you have that. That's a really good concept in business, no matter which department you're in, is having those core values and being able to hold people responsible for the performance. And you do that in your housekeeping department, I think, as much as anywhere else.
Yeah, and so we actually took our company core values and we made a set of housekeeping core values and maintenance core values, and we kind of, branched off of that, but tailored it to each department to give, more real examples of what they would be doing in that department. And like I said, we share it with our housekeepers. We have a poster in our housekeeping facility. They have a copy of it, and it's really, I think, helps set the tone, the expectation.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I love housekeeping. It is my favorite department. I never get tired of hearing about new things that are happening in the industry with housekeeping. What do you think has changed? What has changed for you this year with the housekeeping department, and what do you see for 2025 that that might change? And the reason I'm asking it this way because I know that a lot of people talk about the booking windows changing, and there's a lot of changing in the stay, the length of stay this year, especially at the beach. Tell me what you expect in 2025 and or what you've learned from 2024.
Well, we have learned that the expectations for cleanliness is only rising. It every year it seems to be we need to raise our standards a little more. And um, I think we've always had very high standards for housekeeping, but we do have to keep up with what guests are wanting and what homeowners are wanting, and they are wanting more. They're wanting more services in housekeeping and linens. And so we have to keep up with that. For 2025, I know that we'll be restructuring how we staff and train inspectors. I had mentioned earlier that we use all independent contractors, and we will be bringing our inspectors in house for 2025 because we need to meet the mark with the cleaning standards. And so that's going to start with our inspectors.
Oh, that's cool. How will that change operations?
Well, we've been having a few initial conversations about that. We're not exactly sure because our big turnover day is Saturday. So Some companies I know turnover every day, and we do have flexible short stays, but not Memorial Day through Labor Day. So we're only Saturday to Saturday rentals at that time. And so to have an inspector work 1 day a week, it's really kind of hard to staff that position. It's such a core position. But when we say, oh, we're only hiring for 1 day a week, we lose a lot because they go get other jobs and things like that. So we're really trying to figure out what can our inspectors do during the week so that we can give them more part-time and full-time hours and not just work them on Saturdays. And so far we've come up with 5. We need 10 inspectors. So we've come up with 5 positions that we could use throughout the week as we're growing our housekeeping department.
There are places like Deep Creek, Maryland, who do this very well. I've been really impressed with the way that they handle their housekeeping in that area because of the length of stay they have and their seasonality. So you're not the only one that deals with that. Lots of other people deal with the same issues. Well, thank you so much for being with me. I really appreciate it. And if people want to reach out to you to ask about how you've implemented the training, the orientation, or any of the things that you do, how could they reach you?
Email would be the best way. So it's my first name, Bethany at hobbsrealty.com. And I would love to share any information that would be helpful to anyone in housekeeping. I have a love for it. And even though I've left it behind a little bit, I would still be so excited to share.
Well, thanks again. And thanks for being on the show, Bethany.
Thank you so much.
This episode of How We Grow was brought to you by Blue Tent Marketing. To find out more about how Blue Tent Marketing can help grow your vacation rental business, visit bluetent.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.